What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the Giants are dealing with the fallout of the Daniel Jones benching. They went ahead and signed the quarterback yesterday afternoon, Tim Boyle. He's here to save us. Not really, but Tim Boyle seems to be QB3 of the New York Giants, meaning Daniel Jones now no longer QB1, not QB2, not even 3, QB4. The Giants have basically sent this guy to the Phantom Zone. They've just gotten rid of him, told him, you're not allowed to practice, you're definitely not going to play for us, you are done, buddy. And that might have ruffled some feathers in the New York Giants locker room, and that's what we're going to react to today. There was an anonymous quote from obviously Darius Slayton, but it was listed as a Giants offensive player who said that it was weak as F that the Giants made this decision, clearly didn't support it. Dexter Lawrence also said very publicly that he's not crazy about the decision. However, he understands it's a business and yada yada, so he's really not that upset with it. But overall, the vibe that we're getting out of the New York Giants locker room from all of the quotes and anonymous quotes, Giants players aren't necessarily happy about this decision. Most of them feel like it wasn't fair to Daniel Jones, but I disagree. It was fair to him. We've been going through 6 years of losing, and Daniel Jones has been playing terrible football, and all these guys might be upset that their friend lost his job, but at the end of the day, him doing a bad job at his job has made all of their jobs harder and made everything tougher for the entire organization. So I think that if they pick up a clutch win over the Buccaneers this weekend, everybody's going to move on and be happy about the decision. But for now, it does sound like the Giants locker room is a little bit upset, so we wanted to react to that. What does that mean for the team? What does that mean for Brian Daboll? Is the locker room slipping away from the head coach? Now, I think it's important to bring that up, Alex, before we really dive into this, because in the past, we've seen John Mara give his vote of confidence to a head coach before. But once the locker room starts to slip, that's when he changes his mind. And now we're publicly seeing players in the locker room criticize the team. That indicates to me that the locker room is slipping. So could this indicate that Brian Daboll's job is now on thin ice? That's going to be the big question I think we tackle in this one. But Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? What is your reaction to the New York Giants relegating Daniel Jones all the way down to QB4? And how do you feel about the locker room and their touchy feelings regarding this subject?
To the Shadow Realm, Daniel Jones must go, unfortunately, and the reason is they cannot risk him getting injured. It's as simple as that. If you bench him, he's done. He's cooked. He's over. It's done here. That's what the decision you make. You either go all in with the decision or you go all out. So, at the moment, previously he was a starter. You pull him from that. You do it for one reason and one reason only: protect yourself from that injury clause. And he's going to be QB4 sitting behind Tim Boyle, who they just signed yesterday or this morning. I don't even know. So, this is a situation where the Giants have relegated him to basically we are bubble wrapping you and we are saving you for the rest of the season. So that way, if you get hurt, it's not because it's a football related injury. That's basically what the Giants have now said to Daniel Jones, and players coming out and saying, it's disappointing. He gives us the best chance to win. They're 2-8 with the worst offensive football. If they believe that, we have bigger problems. Like if they genuinely believe that Daniel Jones can help them win football games, I don't know what to say. Listen, we're not players. We are just content creators speaking objectively. We're fans of this team. And as objective people, we acknowledge the fact that Daniel Jones is not a winning player. He is a bad player in the NFL right now at the quarterback position. He has not earned that $40 million per season contract. He's been one of the bottom 10 players at the position. A lot of young talent, a lot of other guys, veterans, have stepped up and been much better. And there's no excuse anymore. Offensive line's been better this season objectively. Wide receivers much better in terms of talent. He has not thrown the ball. He has not done anything. After that Carolina game, somebody had to get fired, and the coaching staff decided that they were going to make Daniel Jones the fall guy. And he was well deserving to be the fall guy based on that performance. But, players, whether it was Darius Slayton that was one that said it, who knows? It was anonymous. I mean, we kind of know that Slayton's been very, very pro Daniel Jones in the past, so it's possible that he was the one that came out and said that. It could have been somebody else, but it's kind of irrelevant whether or not it was him. The point still stands. Dexter Lawrence came out and said, that's one of my best friends. Like, I'm disappointed. And I get it, man. Like, they're buddies. They're friends. You don't want to see your friend lose their job. You don't want to see your friend be, basically thrown to the wolves. And, from a friendship and chemistry standpoint, yeah, I feel bad for him, and I understand where some of these players are coming from. But the Giants didn't, say, they said it was a football decision, right? This anonymous player came out and said, we're not stupid. We knew it was a money decision. A football decision still means money. Just it could be general. It could be a general term. they don't want to make it seem like it was, it's for optics. The Giants always play this optics game. Like, oh, like they don't want us to think this or they don't want us to think that. Like, we've been talking about this injury clause, Anthony, since like before anyone else even brought it up. Months and months and months ago, we talked about this. And now the Giants are making decisions based on those things. So, like, when all is said and done, we saw this coming. We knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of, was Daniel Jones going to play himself into this decision? And, well, you know what? He did. And now you have Tommy DeVito as the starter. And, what they kind of did to Drew Lock, they shafted the guy. Let's be quite honest here. I mean, Drew Lock was asked today about being passed over for the starting job, and his exact quote was, "That's a question that I might still have for myself. It was expressed to me that I was going to be the number 2. Interesting situation." Here's my qualm with that quote, and it's not because of what Drew Lock said, it's because of what it represents. If you are a player now, and Joe Schoen is the general manager, and you are a free agent, and you meet with the Giants, and Joe Schoen tells you, well, you're going to be the number 2, or there's going to be a chance that you play, or you're going to start, it's a load of shit. He is a complete liar. Right? He's done it over and over again. He's lied to these people over and over again. Guys like Drew Lock, we're going to give you the chance to start. I mean, guys, the season's over. What's the point? The season's done. Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Unless they're trying to say, like, if Brian Dable is trying to save his job at 2-8, 0-6 in the division with Tommy DeVito at quarterback, the damage has already been done. Like, he should be fired if he's trying to save his job right now with Tommy DeVito at quarterback. Like, that's how bad it's gotten. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, right? So Drew Lock's sitting here and telling us, I thought I was the number 2. That's what they told me. And I'm another, and I think another like talking head said this yesterday. It was a good point. I forget who it was. And if you're a free agent and Joe Schoen promises you something, and then you hear from Drew Lock who said, yeah, he said the same thing to me, it's a load of crap. Why would I sign there? Why would I sign there to a guy that's just straight up came off season of lying to people about what they were going to have, their opportunities. Drew Lock wanted to go on the Geno Smith, Sam Darnold arc, get a chance, showcase what he could do, and they just shafted him at the critical moment. Why? I'm not totally sure. You know what I mean? I'm not totally sure to be cut. I don't think Drew Lock and Tom DeVito are like worlds apart in talent. You know what I mean? I don't think so. So what I do think here is that Joe Schoen has already compromised his ability to make sound decisions, and then free agents are not going to trust him anymore when he promises them things. So that's already a big, big red flag for me in terms of how he's going to continue to build this team, draw free agents into the Giants organization. We want to get better. Who the hell's going to come here? If it's between us and another club that has a more respectable, loyal general manager who does things the right way, why would you come here? You know what I mean? That's a legitimate question. If you like put your shoes in the situation of a player, and you were going to go and you wanted to vie for playing time, right? I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen Joe Schoen do this before. He said he left things open with Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley, I know there's a lot of bad blood. There's a lot of people that say, well, he did give him an offer. He didn't give him an offer. Let's be quite honest, guys. He didn't give him the guarantees in that original offer. So that was the difference between what Saquon got and what Joe Schoen offered him. The guarantees, not yearly salary, the guarantees. People leave that out like every single time this argument comes up. And then Joe Schoen basically was like, go test the market. We'll match it. Like, we'll see. We'll match it. And then he just never offered him anything else. Like, whatever. What's done is done. But what I'm trying to get at is that Joe Schoen, to me, is not someone you can trust anymore if you're a player, right? So if you're a player and you can't trust the general manager to a degree, that is quite concerning in terms of the prospects of rebuilding this team and adding people in free agency. I don't know if I trust Joe Schoen, because clearly the players are upset and pissed off about it. Even your captain's coming out and saying, I don't agree with it. And like, it's contradicting the decision-making of this organization at the highest level. And that's really, really concerning to me.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to see players openly questioning the front office's decision-making. That's never a good look for an organization. I mean, that's the kind of look that ultimately you have that happen too much and GMs get fired. That's really where that leads. It's a slippery slope. Now, obviously, if the Giants start winning games and the coach and GM look like they made the right decision, then the locker room will get back behind them. But, from everything that we've read online from the different beat writers and people with sources in the building, while the sources indicate that General Manager Joe Schoen, not very well liked in the New York Giants locker room. And I don't really blame those players. They've definitely felt lied to. I mean, I think we as fans have felt lied to. Alex, it reminds me, if you think back to Drew Lock, we did an episode on this topic way back when he signed here, and we weren't reacting to any of his quotes or the Giants quotes. If you remember, we were reacting to the quotes of the Seattle Seahawks general manager, who said publicly in the media on a radio show, yeah, we really wanted to bring Drew Lock back, and Drew Lock wanted to come back, but we couldn't promise him an opportunity to start. The New York Giants pitched him on the idea of competing for a starting job. Remember that? That's what the Seahawks general manager said, that the Giants sold this story to Drew Lock, that he had an opportunity to fight for a starting job in New York. So that's why he signed here. He upended his life. He had an opportunity to continue to play and get paid as a solid quality backup quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, an organization he was comfortable in and an organization that had treated him well. Instead, he decided to take a chance, go to the Giants because they promised him you would have a chance to compete for a starting job. And they never gave him that chance. That was a blatant lie, and that was pretty messed up. And if you are Drew Lock, you've got to be pretty pissed off. And he's going to play cordial and he's going to be diplomatic because he wants jobs in the future. He wants to sign somewhere else this upcoming offseason. This was only a 1-year deal. He's getting paid $5 million to do pretty much nothing, but he wants to do something. He wants to go out there and he wants to have an opportunity to play. So next offseason, you can almost guarantee Drew Lock is not re-signing with the Giants, and he will go elsewhere with a real opportunity with a GM who backs up his promises. So I think that Joe Schoen has mismanaged this one, but at the end of the day, I also think that this is a blatant tank job. The New York Giants want to go with Tommy DeVito. Why? Well, because Tommy DeVito probably doesn't increase their probability of winning games by all that much. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Brian Daboll truly believes he can win once again with Tommy DeVito like he did last year and save his job. But I don't know, Alex, because from the outside looking in, I listen to other podcasts, not Giants-specific shows, right? Like, for one example, I listen to the NFL Stock Exchange. It's an NFL draft podcast, and they talk about draft order, and they reacted to the Daniel Jones benching, Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers, and they were going back and forth about it, and they said, this is the most obvious tank job that we've seen in a long time, isn't it? I think Giants fans don't have that perspective because we follow this team so closely and we look at Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock and we have our opinions on these players and we look at every nook and cranny of this team on a daily basis. But for those guys who don't do that, this looks ridiculous. This looks wild. This looks like a team bypassing an opportunity to win games with a solid QB2 and throwing in some lowly undrafted second-year QB3 in order to lose games. That's what it looks like from the outside looking in. The optics on this situation for Giants fans, it's not nearly as bad as it is for non-Giants fans, believe it or not. Optically, it looks like a mess regardless of which stance you take and where you're coming from as a fan. But for fans who are not fans of the New York Giants, they're looking at this as an obvious tank job, which is not good optically if you are John Mara, the owner of this team, and you want to sell to everybody that you are a legitimate organization that fights to win football games on a week-by-week basis. Well, to everybody else outside of the organization, looks like this team is purposely trying to tank. And I do think that's interesting to highlight, and again, pretty damning to the mismanagement of this organization. And another note that I have to make, Alex, after talking about Drew Lock and the way that he just got passed over here and lied to, a lot of fans want us to feel bad for Daniel Jones. They're like, oh, this isn't right. The Giants shouldn't be treating him this way, making him QB4, keeping him off the field. Guys, miss me with that shit, all right? I don't feel bad for Daniel Jones. He's making $40 million just to stand around. I can't feel bad for a guy for that. Listen, he had 6 years. He had every single chance to turn it around, to be a good player, to prove that he is unbenchable. He never proved that he is unbenchable. Therefore, him getting benched to protect the $23 million injury clause, it doesn't upset me. Yeah, it'll upset Daniel Jones and it'll upset the players, but guys, as fans, are we serious? We weren't going anywhere with Daniel Jones. We're not going anywhere without Daniel Jones. I don't feel bad for the guy. The guy I feel bad for truly is Drew Lock, because he signed here on a low-cost contract, hoping that he could earn his way to more money. This decision by Joe Schoen has taken money out of Drew Lock's pocket. He hasn't taken a dime out of Daniel Jones's pocket. Daniel Jones had $82 million guaranteed and paid out to him. $80 million in the bank on top of his rookie contract. The guy is worth $100 million in total career earnings. I don't care. I don't feel bad for him. He had 6 years to prove it. He had every opportunity. So I'm at this point where, you know what? Listen, Giants fans, you can feel bad for whoever you want to feel bad for, but for me personally, I feel bad for Drew Lock. That's the guy who I think got shafted in this situation. Daniel Jones just didn't play good enough football. Whether he's QB2, 3, or 4 doesn't matter. He's not QB1, but he had every opportunity to remain QB1, and he squandered those opportunities. The Giants are 2-8. He threw 2 red zone interceptions against the worst defense in the NFL in the Carolina Panthers, and the Giants lost that game on the international spotlight. That's bad. That's what you get benched for. And he deserves to be benched. I think we're all in agreement of that. So I don't feel bad for him. And in fact, I feel pretty good about the New York Giants moving on from him. I feel damn good about the New York Giants finally putting this guy to the bench. And I think they're making the right decision by relegating him down to QB4. Sure, it might not be the nicest thing in the world to do. I don't care how much class this guy shows up to the locker room with. I don't care how much of a good guy he is. I don't care about good guys. I care about good football players. And you know what? As great of a guy he is, sure, he's the hardest worker. First one in and last to leave. It hasn't resulted in wins. I'll rather take the guy who's late to the meetings but winning football games than the guy who's early to meetings and losing on a week-to-week basis. So really, I don't feel bad. And I understand that the players in the locker room, they're upset by this. I think that the upset feelings are misplaced here. We should feel bad for Drew Lock, like I said. So hopefully Drew Lock gets his opportunity eventually, whether it's with the Giants, later on the season, or if it's with another team next year. He was sold a lie. He was sold a bridge that he's never going to cross here with the New York Giants. It's very unfortunate to him. But at the end of the day now, I think it's just time to look at this roster, look at the state of it, understand that the Giants, I don't think winning necessarily is their top priority. Making a move to financially protect themselves in 2025 tells you that 2025 is their top priority. They have pretty much waved the white flag. They think this season is over. As we all do, we know this Giants team is not going to the playoffs. The Giants have finally understood that as well, and they said, screw it, we're going to start making moves to prepare ourselves for a brighter future. The present is lost. The future can still be obtained. Let's go ahead and make the smart decisions for that. That's what the Giants are doing, and I respect this decision. I don't care that Daniel Jones' feelings are hurt. I don't care that Darius Slayton and everybody else's feelings are hurt. F your feelings, man, personally. I care about this New York Giants football team winning. Saquon Barkley actually said it best when he was talking to Evan Neal last year. Evan Neal had that spat with fans, and he said some mean things about fans flipping burgers in the media. And you know what Saquon Barkley said, Alex? He said the fans were here before us, and they will be here long after us. That's whose feelings need to be protected in this situation. Not Daniel Jones' feelings, the New York Giants fans' feelings. That's what matters at the end of the day, is that this team makes the right decisions for long-term sustained success and winning. They haven't made the decisions with that goal in mind in like 10 years now. This is them finally making those decisions with long-term sustained winning in mind, so it's a welcome change for me. I don't care about the hurt feelings in the locker room. I only care about the New York Giants trying to turn things around and build towards a brighter future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how best to say it, but like, I couldn't give two shits about Daniel Jones being QB4 right now if I tried. He is making $40 million, not only be a bad quarterback in the NFL, but now he's getting paid to not play. You don't get to complain. You don't get to feel bad, buddy. I'm sorry. We got people out here in the real world, like working their asses off to provide for their families and whatnot, and you get to sit there and cash in millions every single week. $2 million a week. I don't feel bad for you. I'm sorry. Like, that's just the truth. And I get it from a competitor standpoint. Like, he's upset and he's disappointed. Should have played better. Should have made the throws. Flea flicker. Wandale's wide open. Should have freaking thrown the ball. Maybe he wouldn't be benched right now if he just threw the ball. We asked him, Anthony, how many times do we beg? Play like you are, like your back's against the wall. Play like you have nothing to lose. Because Daniel Jones had nothing to lose. I mean, he had his job to lose, obviously. But meaning, like he had no reason not to just go all out. Take the chances. Throw the ball. Take risks. Be reactive. Instead, he just played like a robot, as he always does. And he couldn't do anything. And this is where we are now. But listen, we'll move past that. And we look to the future. Yesterday we talked about what it would take for the Giants to get the #1 overall pick. I don't know if you saw that clip of Shadur Sanders, and there, the guy talking to him was like, oh, how about the Giants? And he was like, I know they could draft someone pretty good in the draft. And he was like, oh, like, what are you talking about? And they played it off. But Anthony and I were talking about this earlier. The Giants sent a contingency of scouts to see him at practice. A couple days later, Joe Shane goes to Colorado to watch him himself in person. There is a clear-cut process unfolding for Shadur Sanders right now. It is clear as day. And I gotta say something, Anthony. You want to know why I think Joe Shane and Brian Daboll's job is safe for next year? Because why on earth would John Mara be letting them scout the quarterbacks right now for the future if he did not have faith in them? Right? Like, why would he be letting them go through this whole process to decipher, learn, evaluate the quarterbacks if he did not think that they were going to be here? If he was unsure if they were going to be here next year, you know what I mean? it's a question to ask. I mean, listen, alternatively, like, you like have an interim, but like you could fire Joe Shane, promote Brandon Brown as the interim, and he would legitimately be an option to get that job, and he would be going in the process in there, like at the very least, like he's going in there, evaluating the quarterbacks, like learning about, and like that makes a lot of sense logically. But like if Joe Shane was not going to be here next year, why on earth is John Mara giving him the chance to go and scout these quarterbacks in person? It's something to talk about. It is a thought that is kind of weird to me.
Well, I think that John Mara, I don't think he was lying when he said that he wants to stay patient and give these guys a chance to keep their jobs in 2025. I've said many times that I think patience means he's going to reevaluate at the end of the season. But for now, it's got to be operations as normal. You got to keep just going on like as if everything is going to continue to be in place as it is in 2025. I think that is the right way to go about things. One thing that I think is really interesting, though, Alex, the Giants have some of the best candidates for not only GM jobs, but head coaching jobs as well this offseason. And hear me out for a second. Brandon Brown received a little bit of interest for GM jobs last year. He's probably going to get even more interest this upcoming offseason. I think he could end up being the Giants GM if they do fire Joe Shane as well, as you kind of just alluded to. But not only Brandon Brown being a top GM candidate, we also have to remember last year, Mike Kafka was a top head coaching candidate, and that could be the case again this offseason. There are definitely teams around the league who view this Giants team as a completely mismanaged bunch by GM Joe Shane and head coach Brian Daboll. They clearly feel as though there is talent on the coaching staff and in the front office outside of those two guys. So there's been significant interest in hiring Mike Kafka. There's been significant interest in hiring Brandon Brown. And even though this has been a bad season for the Giants, there have been some positives to take away, like this 2024 rookie draft class. Those guys could end up getting hired this upcoming offseason. And Alex, one thing that I will point out, both of those players would account for draft capital. Not both of those players. Both of those personnel decision makers would account for draft capital if hired by another team for the New York Giants under the recent rules that were added to the NFL. Both of those guys would get hired elsewhere. Giants would get, I think, third-round draft picks. So if you're a Giants fan and you want Mike Kafka out of here, you don't just want him fired, you want him hired. You want somebody to take him as a head coach so the Giants can get some draft picks. But Brandon Brown, I don't want going anywhere. I think that he is really valuable to this team, and I really do like Brandon Brown. But it's very interesting to just kind of take note of that, Alex, as we continuously discuss the mismanagement of this team. Maybe the mismanagement goes beyond the players. Maybe there is serious overlooking of talent off the field as well, with so much interest being generated in some of the secondary decision makers on the New York Giants, like offensive coordinator Mike Kafka and like assistant GM Brandon Brown. So I just think that was an interesting point to make, because you kind of talked about some of those things and alluded to that, so kind of sparked that idea in my mind. But overall, just very crazy times as a New York Giants fan right now. Very, very wild stuff going on. Crucial game coming up on Sunday versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sterling Shepard returning to MetLife Stadium, I think, is a pretty fun and underrated storyline here. Baker Mayfield going up against the Giants. If you remember, Alex, years ago, Baker Mayfield said teams overthink it. Daniel Jones is bad. He kind of sent those shots at him. I think there are some fun storylines going into this game, but ultimately, we don't really care because the Giants winning doesn't even matter. We're just looking ahead to draft picks and where our draft stock is going to be after this game. But should be an interesting one. I'm excited to see how Tommy DeVito plays, and we'll definitely have a lot to react to throughout the weekend as we get closer to game day and as we react to game day on Sunday. So that's pretty much going to wrap this one up, though, guys. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. Listen to Apple or Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.